Ma'am, you are on mute right now because.
Okay.
Yeah, we got this. Yeah.
So, wonderful. Okay, so
Rahul Binoy, you can start.
Yeah. Yes. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rahul Binoy, and I'm the event head and your host for today, representing ASMA. ASMA stands for Adoption of Social Media in Academia. It is the leading global community in academia, catering to all the segments of education sector, comprising of schools, preschools, higher education, corporate houses, and government bodies. ASMA in itself is a knowledge sharing platform that helps to uncover the latest insights, anticipating future trends, and providing a transformative social framework. Today's event, the ASMA Thought Leadership Forum, wouldn't have been possible without our partner, GTT Foundation. Also, I'd like to thank our engagement partner, FMA Digital, and AI partner, Urai Robotics, for supporting this event. Now, with immense pleasure, I'd like to invite Dr. Uma Ganesh. She is the Principal Trustee of GTT Foundation to take it from here. Over to you, Uma, ma'am.
thank you very much, Rahul. I'd like to thank you and Rahul Jain, founder of ASMA, for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to interact with this excellent panel this morning. As we get started on this theme, I would like to just introduce GTT Foundation to those of you who may not be that familiar with our activities. We have been engaged with skill development and talent readiness for the industry over the last 10 years and more. And this has given us an opportunity to work with several colleges and universities across the country. And more than 1 million young people have benefited through various initiatives that we have put in place, and have managed to step into the corporate world with the help of the training and development initiatives that we have worked with the universities for this, for enabling them to get into the corporate world. So in this context, today we are really excited to discuss with all of you about this very big question that is there in front of everybody, particularly the corporates and universities, about how do we enable larger number of women to play a role in technology industries? How can they shape their careers in the domain of technology? So this is really the theme around which there are many questions that are coming up, and I would be delighted to discuss with the eminent panel that we have today about their thoughts and their perspectives. Just to set the context and also to invite Dr. Manpreet soon after that, I would like to just mention that it is really exhilarating to note that today, when we look at science education, more than 50% of the students are women who come into science stream. And similarly, in the engineering stream, in every university or college, on an average, we find that more than 30% of the students are women, which is fantastic news. However, when it comes to employment scenario, the situation is very different. At the entry level, we have, of course, a very healthy 38% in the junior level, which is a very, very healthy number of women in the technology industry. However, when you look at the leadership position, it actually reduces to less than 11%. And At the mid-level, of course, it's only about 20%. So the key question that is there in front of us is something happens to these women, something happens in the industry, that when in the academic system, we have such a large number of women wanting to come forward and be part of the technology domain. As they start entering into the industry, the number shrinks. And more importantly, as they move up the ladder, the number shrinks even lesser than the numbers that enter into the industry. So in this context, we got to think about many dimensions. So to specifically discuss about the education framework that we have today, which is enabling, attracting women to come in. There can't be any better person than Dr. Manpreet Manna, who's a former director of AICTE. He must have had the opportunity to think about this question and frame suitable policies at the AICTE, and he is continuing to be associated with various academic institutions. So we would be very keen to hear from you, Dr. Manna, in the next few minutes, your thoughts on this big question about how do we motivate more women to be part of the technology stream in particular. What is it that the government, the education policy is already doing, and what more can be done from the policy perspective and also from the educational institutions to address this question? Over to you, Dr. Manna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to Dr. Uma ji, Rahul ji. The great people are here with this particularly today's panel discussion, and we are having a very novel topic today to discuss. I'm sure that Dr. Shukla ji, Dr. Kerron, Reddy ji, and of course Dr. Kulkarni ji will take over further, and we are going to be taking the great insights from their wisdom, from their experience, how they are taking further. So this topic and this discussion, which I'm just going to be summing up in my 10 minutes of talk in the two areas. One is area from the government point of view, regulators point of view, and second is from the industry point of view. And I feel really blessed to be a part of country India as a citizen. Both sides we having a very great support for our young girls and for our women participation. I'll come to the government side. Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao Abhiyan came too late. Even before that also, AICTE, somewhere in 2014, the moment I joined, there was two policies that was going on. I was lucky enough to be the part of that policy when we could bring the Pragati. The Pragati was one of the policy given from the corpus funds of the AICTE itself. Already the AICTE used to have a fund from MHRD at that time. Now it's MOE. And then we used to give like a GATE scholarships or CMAT, CPAT scholarships and many other kind of things. But for the Pragati and Saksham for the persons with the disability and Pragati for the girl child. Even during first year, there was a big confusion in the society for applying. They said only one girl child or then they can apply. Only two children, no boy in the family they can apply. Then we given a very huge public notice. Any girl child from the family having at that time the annual income was 4.5, later on it becomes to 6 lakhs, equal to 6 or less than 6 lakh, they can be the part of Pragati. And we were getting a very good number of applications for that. Very good number of applications for that. And it is a beginning. Because of that only, I just got invite from the Girls in Tech Foundation. They conducted a very first hackathon in California and it was get recognized by UNO. They said, we are going to be organize something in Hyderabad from the Microsoft and we want you to be the part of this. I went over there. I could see the girls, how amazingly, even the BBA student, BA student, BCA students, they were doing coding. They were doing something algorithms. Then I asked to Mr. Namin Mittal, he is the one of the senior IAS officer of Telangana. Now he's even commissioner for the higher education there, Telangana, along with the secretary was sitting over there because it was a CSR from the Microsoft. I said, is that only thing you are going to do or something bigger one? They said, sir, we want to do something bigger one, but we want the road, we want the roadmap, we want the team, everything. I said, it will come. The moment you will start. I given a very small hint over there and they taken it over. NESCOM Foundation India taken over it. I'll just come to that point. What was that? I said, for girls skilling, there are two types of skillings. One skill which comes from the mothers, which comes from the mentors, neighbors, or aunties like Mosi, Mami, Chachi. That skills comes inherency, how to take care of others. Because in every girl, we find a mother. In every girl, from the beginning, they always play with the gudiya, they make a house, they want kitchen set, all these things. These skills comes by inheritance. But at the same time, when you see the survey conducted by the PwC of 5 years back, they could find it, the girl employee in particular IT sector, it was the survey conducted, most integrated, regular, punctual, disciplined, and target-oriented. That was the survey. I don't say that the counterpart males are not equally competent enough. No, there is no question of competency. But some attainments, some traits, some qualities which they could find in the survey, because the retention level is high. The girl comes with the husband and husband is working in the same city. She is not going to look at the opportunity to be jumping over here and there. They are very much loyal to the company and they will stay for the years and years. They get superintended to the same organization or maybe the college. Then I said, why don't you give these kind of skills from the beginning part? In our India, why girl students are not coming to the polytechnic area, diploma area? If today you will find that generally what happens after marriage, they say, tu jahan jahan chalega, mera saya saath hoga. Wherever the husband is going to find the city for as per his bread and butter, being a husband as a head of the family, he has to. Sometimes even the wife is earning more, but still, no, I have to select the city of stay or something. I said, why don't you give the skills from the polytechnic level? The moment we are going to give the polytechnic level, I'm not interested for the subsidies. I'm not interested for the scholarships. आप हमें मत दिया मत दे, empower करें. आप हमें सशक्त करें. So that empowerment comes with that digital skilling. So NESCOM Foundation could understand it. They again reached to the Microsoft, and I'm happy that now they are coming with this. We could see many of the girl students during the polytechnic first year, they don't know how to open an email. Forgetting about the website, forgetting about the browsing, surfing, and going to Naukri.com or looking their career, looking their future, how to crack a CAT exams, how to go for a GRE, how to go for other kind of this kind of the national level of testing. There, so that's why in IITs still we'll find a less percentage of the girl students intake in IITs. But if you go to the private universities today, I think it's around 40% girls, or even computer science branch, more than 60% girl students are there in many of the universities, including Pune, Bombay, Hyderabad, and of course Bangalore. Why not in the national importance institutions, IITs or IIMs, etc.? Question is very simple. Those has to be get focused from the metric onwards. The digital skilling, giving to the girls from the polytechnic level or the senior secondary level should be there. And I'm talking about which girl child. I'm not talking about the metro city girl child. They are well aware because their parents are well aware. They have well taken care of their children, either it's a boy or girl. They have the good, quality of living standards. But what about the rural area? Rural area girls still is looking only one option. My parents are going to marry me off. If I'll get a good husband, my life is safe. If that husband is not as per my, mindset, मैंने बचपन से जो सपना देखा घोड़े पे सवार होके आएगा, मुझे खुश रखेगा. If it is not there, then it is an agreement and I have to serve. I have to serve the family. That's it. If we are going to empower the girl of the country, we should go to the rural area. We should go to the suburban area. And we don't have to give the books. We don't have to give even the computers. We have to give them the digital skills. Digital skills are, because today is the most powerful tool in this world is a data. Most powerful tool. You want to know anything? Data. Data mining, data acquisition, data presentation. And for the data, they have to have the certain tools to be get understood. Today, girl child knows how to use WhatsApp. They know how to go for Facebook, but how to get something to be developed for themselves, like some organic data, like some organic apps. एक लड़की हमारे देश की 24 साल की E&Y की कंपनी छोड़ के 6 लाख की, वो सैनिटेशन पैड्स बनाने के लिए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्टार्ट करती है, स्टार्टअप क्रिएट करती है और आज वर्ल्ड में नाम लेती है. वी फील प्राउड, वी फील प्राउड. एक हमारे देश की बेटी जाती है गोल्ड मेडल लेके आती है, वी फील प्राउड. सो ये 2-4 की एग्जांपल्स क्यों देनी पड़ रही है? हमारे पास जो आज का वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट कंट्री हम कहलाते हैं इन पॉपुलेशन, तो हमारे पास वर्ल्ड की लार्जेस्ट पॉपुलेशन ऑफ गर्ल चिल्ड्रन भी है, यंग गर्ल चिल्ड्रन भी है. आप डाटा कभी भी उठा के देख सकते हैं. तो उन सब में से सिर्फ 3 या 4 नाम लेके मैं चुप कर जाऊंगा? पहले पीटी उषा थी, अब वो आई है, 2 और आई है, 3 और आई है, 4, बस उंगली पे गिने तो 10 वीमेन टॉप मुझे सीईओज के नाम बताने हैं, 5 स्पोर्ट्स गर्ल्स के बताने हैं, 3 बहुत अच्छी जो है फाउंडेशन चलाने वाली हमारी ग्रेट लेडीज है. मदर टेरेसा से शुरू करूंगा और इट इज गोइंग टू बी कंप्लीट विद इन 5 मिनट्स. डोंट वी हैव द डायरेक्टरी ऑफ 1000 गर्ल्स, a directory of maybe a 10,000 ladies of my country? Those are working in the different areas. Reason is very simple: data. And how do we inculcate these kind of skills? I think we should touch from that point only, because up to metric schooling is common, whether it's a boy or girl schooling. After that, when they will select their, the profile, पापा बोले हैं कि तुम्हें दूर नहीं भेजेंगे, तुम्हें कॉमर्स लेनी होगी, बगल के कॉलेज में पढ़ने जाना है. You have to opt the BA because we can't afford to give you the BTech. शादी पे पैसा लगाना है, BTech पे पैसा नहीं लगाएंगे, MBBS पे पैसा नहीं लगाएंगे. ठीक है, we don't interfere in their financial matters. We understand, we respect, but at the same time, can we support them to be make equally competent as one of the BDS girl is coming out? Awareness point of view से, knowledge point of view से, awareness is the one of the biggest tool. I think it's one of the strong tool to make someone empowered. अगर आपको अवेयर कर देंगे ना, तो आप बात अपनी रख सकते हैं. अगर आपको पता रहेगा ना कि समाज में क्या रूल्स हैं, क्या आंकड़े हैं, क्या एक्ट्स हैं, और मेरे क्या ह्यूमन राइट्स हैं एज ए सिटीजन ऑफ कंट्री इंडिया, तो आपको दूसरी बात बताने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. सो यू विल नॉट गेट एक्सप्लॉइटेड फ्रॉम स्कूल. Just 5 years back, we started this, good touch and bad touch. During my time, I think there is no good touch and bad touch was taught by the teachers. There is nothing like this, because we were not aware about this, and then we not made aware to others. Today, when we become aware ourselves, we are start awareing our girl children. What is a good touch? What is a bad touch? And how to be others to be get behaved by you with a very decent manner. Otherwise, you should report it, you should record it, and you should refuse it to be get entertained when it is not as per the decorum of the society. It's that because of pure awareness. I'm sure many foundations, and of course GTT Foundation is doing amazingly in that way. We have to come to educate the girls, not for the BAMA. We are going to educate the girls for the values to be given by them also towards society. They should not feel like कि मैं बहुत pampered हो गई हूँ, मेरे पीछे बहुत बड़ी सपोर्ट आ गई है, मैं कहीं भी जा सकती हूँ. ऐसा नहीं, जाना है. फ्रीडम इज फ्रीडम फॉर वेयरिंग, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, फ्रीडम ऑफ सेलेक्टिंग योर करियर, फ्रीडम ऑफ सेलेक्टिंग योर हायर एजुकेशन. इट इज देयर. बट एट द सेम टाइम जो एक नारी शक्ति है, नारी संस्कृति है, उसका डेकोरम भी उन्हीं से हमें रिफ्लेक्शन देना है सोसाइटी में. हमें उनको ऐसा पढ़ाना है कि आपकी एरोगेंसी भी नजर नहीं आनी चाहिए, आपका कुछ इस तरह से कुछ प्राउड भी नजर नहीं आना चाहिए कि मैं गर्ल हूं तो मैं किसी को कुछ भी बोलूंगी तो मुझे नहीं कुछ छेड़ सकता क्योंकि मैं उसको कंप्लेंट करूंगी. लेकिन सेम टाइम्स अगर हम लड़का है तो उसको हम पकड़ के अंदर भी कर देंगे, तुमने ऐसे अब्यूज क्यों किया. इट इज बोथ वे. वी हैव टू मेक अ बैलेंस सोसाइटी. सो फॉर द बैलेंस सोसाइटी, आई थिंक यू आर गोइंग टू टेक अ वेरी राइट डिसीजन. This is the right time. This kind of discussions taking place. I'm sure all my co-panelists are having a similar track and they must be giving a great inputs on that area. Myself, I am always available for any kind of this noble cause for my country, for society, how we can take our girl students further in a digitally enabled society so that they can find their place in this society. With this, I just want to conclude my opening remarks. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manna. That was really, really wonderful. The context that you have set, the initiatives that you have supported or you have been involved with while you were at AICTE, and your passionate appeal to the society at large as to how should we be bringing up girl children and the opportunities that we have in front of us. This is really fantastic, the way you have laid out the key points for us to deliberate upon in the next 1 hour or so. So taking cue from what Dr. Manna said, I would like to draw the attention to everybody about why we are thinking about opportunities for women in technology industry in particular, and not about other areas. I mean, certainly there are huge opportunities for women in every domain, every industry. There is huge opportunity. However, the reason we are talking about technology industry is because of two primary reasons. First reason is that today, the training that you get in technology enables you, particularly digital technology, enables you to shape your career in any domain, whether it is geography, whether it is science, whether it is teaching. In every domain, today there is a need for digital technology. And therefore, building a base in technology enables you to develop careers and look at several exciting opportunities as you go along. Secondly, what is fascinating about technology industry is that today it is one of the largest employers in the industry and probably well suited for women because they do not necessarily have to work in very complex and difficult terrains or situations. So it is naturally suited for women to begin with. But what is also exciting to know is that in India, IT BPM industry, which used to contribute only about 1.2% of GDP way back in 99 or 2000, today it is contributing as much as 8 to 9% of GDP. So which means this industry is growing so tremendously. It is something that is in a position to create so many job opportunities. Therefore, why shouldn't women be part of this growing industry in a bigger way? And what is also fascinating to note is that why is India being looked upon as a destination by entire world? You look at the US, for instance. At one point of time in the US, you had large number of women actually being part of the technology industry. But what happened was from 2014 onwards, we have started seeing a slide in terms of the number of women who are opting for technology specialization. And by now, it has come down to just about 20 or 25% in the US. Now, the world has started looking at India, as Dr. Manna said. Not only are we blessed with huge population, the demographic dividend that we're talking about, we have extremely supportive policies for women. And I can say, as somebody who has been part of the technology industry for more than 3 decades, I have been really privileged. At no point of time did I feel discriminated. I got fantastic support from my family, from the education system, from the favorable policies of the government, of the industry, to seamlessly pursue careers. But not many have really had that opportunity to do so. That may be because of a number of reasons. And today we are finding that while there are opportunities and industries are seeing, we want to have more women being part of the industry, particularly for technology domain. We are finding, on the other hand, that almost 40% of engineers are women who are not employed, which means the system that is enabling them to educate themselves, there is something that is missing because of which, A, they are not able to enter into the industry, and B, even those who enter into the industry, as I mentioned earlier, are not able to retain their jobs or not able to sustain their jobs because of various compulsions, maybe family, maybe marriage, maybe work pressures, and so on and so forth. So in order to understand the mental make and the attitudes that are required to be developed by women candidates for pursuing tech careers, what is it that educational institutions need to do, and what is it that they are already doing? To talk about this, may I request Professor Neelima Gupta to come forward and share your views, please?
Thank you very much. At the outset, I feel really honored. Hello.
Yeah, we
You're
can hear
audible,
you,
ma'am.
Prof.
You're audible, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm audible. That's fine. That's fine. So it's indeed a pleasure for me to be with you today on this very important, thought-provoking webinar on thought leadership that is enabling women careers in technology. I feel very pleased that we have a good number of co-panelists, and they've been organized by ASMA. It is really a pleasure for me to be a part of this meet. Well, the topic which has been taken up today is really very fascinating and attractive, since today we are talking about women careers in technology. I think maybe I can share a few slides, and so that I can be brief and save time also. उसको भेजो, दत्ता. So is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay,
Yes,
fine, fine. Then I'll just. ठीक है, दिख रहा है. So today we are just talking about how we can enable women in technology, and I think some of the issues were just discussed. And when we talk about women in technology, we also talk about women, how they are in science. And of course, this webinar is to for us to think how we can look ahead. But definitely we have to look back also, and how we have progressed, and where we have to lead ultimately. But the basic question which has to be addressed through this webinar, I feel, is that why is the issue that women in science and technology is pertinent for a discussion today? Because I feel that about 50% of the society is by women. So do we meet those criteria if 50% of the society is women? Are 50% of the women contributing to science and technology? That would be a question. So women have played traditionally a strong role in nurturing the young mind. Hence, their participation in science and technology can influence the relationship between science and society in more than one ways. And I think that this fact is recognized all over the world. So mainstreaming gender technology has now become essential. And this is gender sensitivity is relevant for technology, because 50% of the intellectual reserve, I would say, it remains underutilized in the quest for broadening the horizons of human knowledge. And full involvement can help us to realize that they have a potential which can be utilized. Just like Dr. Uma Ganesh was just saying, that we have a number of women engineers, they do BTech, but they are not in jobs. So how we can utilize their potentials is an issue which has to be addressed. Now, earlier I would say that girls were not attracted towards technology, but today we find that many of the girls, they are being attracted into technology. We have to launch a successful science and technology career program for the girl students so that they are attracted. We have to get women into the technology leadership structure nationally as well as internationally. Only then we can improve their market value. We have to improve the institutional climate for women in science and technology. This is very important, because many a times we find that the girl students, they're not going for science. Why? Because they feel that the climate is not good. So they just go for arts subjects, they just do graduation and post-graduation. So we should find a very attractive environment for our girl students, so that they are being attracted towards science and technology. If we just have this data here, I have pulled some data from some countries, and we can see where we stand, India. So if we, the drop-off factor, we can see it is least in France. So it can be traced back to some very proactive policies which have been revolutionized or instituted by the French research system. So the situation, it can be improved if we take proactive steps. So here we can see that India is sort of midway. So if we try hard, we can improve our situation. So now we find that many of our girl students, they do graduation, they do post-graduation in science, and they proceed for a PhD also. But what after PhD? So the dropout factor after PhD we find to postdoctoral positions, and of course even to larger faculty positions. Now it becomes very high. We just do PhDs, our girls are doing PhDs in science and technology, and then they are nowhere. So we have to have the data. This is also very important, that right now we do not even have the proper data, and we cannot present these full data in front of the audience. But it is also clear that if we look at the percentage of women in faculty positions, even in teaching positions, percentage of women is higher in colleges than in universities. In fact, if we just go to the data, we find in the universities, so being a vice chancellor for almost 4 years now, I find that every year we find that the toppers, we get a higher percentage of toppers who are girl students. And then gradually as we move up the ladder, the percentage of the girl students goes on falling. I was talking about PhD, going into the jobs. We find fewer girls coming into the faculty positions. And you go on climbing into the hierarchy, you reach the top positions and the number becomes lower and lower and lower. So why is it? Why is it that our girl students who are so talented, who have an aptitude to show their potential in the university examinations, but they are not able to reach the peak positions? I feel so glad to share. I think all of you must have read the news also that recently in the Supreme Court also 9 judges were appointed, and out of them 3 were women. So I felt so happy, 33%. So if that is the ratio, there's nothing wrong. But if we go into science and technology, we find that we are not able to meet these students. So if we try to compare the universities and the high profile institutions there, again, that's what I was saying. The number of women, it goes lower and lower. In Indian Institute of Science, for example, only 6% of the full professors are women. So we have to see that where do we stand and where our women are going. So if we look into the Indian perspective, we find that official stated hiring policies, they have no gender bias. They don't say that we do not have to employ women. But practically when we find that the women are not getting their place, the discrimination is far more subtle and indirect. So the action plan in the Indian case has to be very different. Happily, some of the corrective measures suggested in the Western world are already in place in India, and proactive measures have already started. So we are at the starting place, but we have to work hard so that we can reach our goals. So in the Indian needs, we have to collect the statistics of participation of women in science research as opposed to only science training. And we have to encourage girl students to take up research in science as a vocation. We have to help women get back into research after they take a break for a family. We were just talking about, of course, they have to take care of their family also. But once they go back to their family, it becomes difficult to come back into their job. So there should be opportunities for these female technologists that they can balance their career and family. When their family responsibilities are over, they must have the option of coming back into their careers. So the needs of the Indian cases, further, they have to bring about a change in the societal attitude, which will encourage pure science career for women and remove the famed glass ceiling and increase participation of women in science and technology. So there are steps which are being taken in India. That is scientific organizations like if I talk about departments of science and technology, they have a special scheme for women, mainly with what I was talking about, that they can come back into the career and they give fellowship to these women. The National Board of Higher Mathematics has also instituted a committee for women in mathematics. One of the recommendations of the committee is to involve the academies and bodies like IPA, for example. So these initiatives are being taken, but a database of women in sciences at all levels needs to be created, and we have to have facts and figures so that we can start working on them, and we already have started to work on that. We have to implement specific action plans to increase participation of women in Indian science, and a web page for women. Often we find that we are not updated. We must have a web page for women in science and technology as part of the academy website, which should summarize the aims of the working committee, and we can update ourselves on these aspects. So we can have different articles, we can have experts from diverse fields such as social scientists and psychologists to be involved in discussion how to promote this group. And we can involve other groups also. We can have sessions on women and science and technology, and it should become a regular. We have scientific meetings, but do we have such sessions in all such meetings? So such sessions should be reserved in all such meetings also. And we have to bring a change in the mindset of parents of the girls by creating a social awareness and attracting them more into science and technology. So a role model program named after some of the famous women fellows should be started by the academy, which will definitely involve special lectures, mentoring, holding special workshops for girl students in science, and books and reading material, also online material, they can be made available of eminent women scientists. They should be a role model so that our girls, they can be attracted. They should be brought into the organizations. And I'm focusing mainly on India. Workshops on women in science and technology need to be held very regularly, like the one we are having today. How many of these workshops are being held all over the country? So we have to discuss the basic issues. So we could have a national meeting later on and discuss these issues at the national level. And this is also very important, that funding support for organizing various programs of the working group could be sought from the central and state women welfare ministry, who could provide funds for organizing such meets. So these are some of the suggestions, like we should have women-friendly campuses. How many of our organizations, they have creche on every campus? Because many of the women, they have problems in bringing up their small children. Accommodation, which if it is close to the campus, because many of our women technologists, they have to travel a lot to reach their working place. We have to have proactive measures in hiring policies, and part-time jobs, they should be more available, so that they can even work for a few hours or a few days in a week. So they should have those options. Here we have either you go for work or you don't go for work. So there should be an intermediate type of provision, and there should be representation of women in such committees, so that we can discuss more on these issues, on the recruitment policies, which are counterproductive, and they may help our women technologists. So I would say that the problems in India are similar to those at the international level, but in many ways the situation is much better. For example, in official policies, participation of girls in science education solutions to achieve gender equity is somewhat different. Most important is to bring about a change in the societal attitudes, but some policy changes are required too. But I do feel there are changes which are coming up in the society, and parents are promoting their girls to come into technology. So these are just due to paucity of time, I'll just try to wind up. So we have some very famous women technologists here. We have a Nobel Prize winner who is just in front of you, Christine Nuslin Wohlhard. She won the Nobel Prize in 1942 in medicine. We have Charlotte Oberach, who was way back. So it's not that today we are talking about women empowerment today. She talked about mutations that mustard gas could cause in fruit flies. But India is also not short of such women. Here I've just tried to bring you a group of these women who have been our pride for the country. So I must say that we must keep on thinking. These are some of the Indian women. Just quickly, I will go through an organic chemist, and Maharani Chakravarti, who worked on DNA, Charurista Chakravarti, who was also a famous scientist, the missile woman of India. I think we all recognize her. She also became very popular. So we do have certain examples, and that is why I'm saying that we must have decision-making power of one's own if we want to rise in technology. We must have access to information and resources for taking proper decision. We must have a positive thinking on the ability to make a change. We must be determined. That is very important. And we must have an ability to learn skills for even improving one's personal group or power. Only then we can improve in technology. And if we are able to do that, if we are able to improve ourselves in technology, I am sure that we are definitely going to empower our women of the country. It is that process which allows one to gain the knowledge, skill sets, and attitude which is needed to cope up with the changing world and the circumstances in which one lives. So we must have a national policy for empowerment of women, which we do have. It was adopted in 2001. The principle of gender equity, it is enshrined in the Indian Constitution in its very preamble. It is a fundamental right, it is a fundamental duty and a directive principle which grants equality to the women and also empowers the state to adopt measures of positive discrimination in favor of women. So if we are at that stage, I would say that experience, strength and success in comforting, inspirational, real stories by real women, which can act as models for our young girl students. And I'm sure that empowerment of women, it is not just a goal in itself, but it is a key to all global development goals. And I'm sure with webinars like the one which is being organized here, we are moving in that direction. There is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. So I must say that women empowerment is very closely linked with strives in science and technology. So let us all work hard in science and technology so that we are able to provide more careers in technology for women. And of course, we are going to improve women empowerment that way. Thank you so much. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to share my views on this very important topic. The time was short, but the topic was so interesting that I gave my consent, and I'm so happy to be with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta, for that very, very rich presentation that you made. And it was really useful to get your perspectives, to know your thoughts based on your own rich experience on how women could be encouraged more and more, not only in the academic careers, but also in other facets of science and technology. So while Dr. Gupta has spoken so eloquently about the opportunities that are there for women in science and technology, and she also highlighted some fascinating examples of women who have taken advantage of these opportunities. As we have been observing, we have challenges for not large number of women are coming forward and making use of these opportunities. So I'm going to now request Dr. Kerron Reddy, who has founded institutions, and I'm sure she's looking at how to develop women. And I would like you, Dr. Reddy, to specifically talk about some of the typical skills that we expect women to develop over a period of time in their own careers to be successful. Capabilities such as networking, which do not come very naturally to most women, maybe because of their upbringing, because of the hesitation they have, or sometimes they do have this expectation that they need to be treated differently because they are women, they have different priorities. And then multitasking is something that they are comfortable at home, but are they really comfortable taking that capability into workplace? These, and there are many other attitudes and capabilities which have to be specifically focused upon for women to realize that in order to build successful careers, it's important for them to develop these capabilities. So I would like to understand from you, Dr. Reddy, what is it that academic institutions like yours are doing to develop these abilities in women while they are still in the academic institutions, and what more can be done in order to develop leaders of tomorrow, women leaders of tomorrow in the technology domain? Over to you, Dr. Reddy.
Thanks, Dr. Rama, and a very good morning to all my fellow panelists. And I thank ASMA for inviting me to be one of the panelists for this exciting topic, which actually is the need of the day. As Dr. Uma said, that the institutions play a major role in shaping up and preparing the girls to take up the careers in technological organizations is a topic to be debated on. Though there are many national policy framework is in place, and there are the women empowerment policies are in place, and the organizations are coming up with various policies to accommodate women. The basic deficiency, or the hesitation of the girls in preparing themselves to join these technological organizations is always quite not alarming, but we feel that we need to look into it. First of all, the girls, majority of them, though there is a changed scenario in cosmopolitan cities and cities and all, but still, the girls who come from the rural background and very kind of middle class families and all, they're trained, they're tuned to think that the ultimate goal of theirs is to get married or work, and then the profession becomes secondary. They don't look at being taking up the profession as their major um, aspect or the priority, and their minds are tuned to such that they feel that their income is to supplement the income of the husband, and to take care of the family responsibilities. So the educational institutes should look at bringing in training programs, lots of training programs, to instill confidence in these girls who are very intelligent. As Dr. Ruma mentioned that, Dr. Neelima, I think, mentioned that the toppers are always the girls in the institutions. This proves that these girls have a lot of capabilities, and they can really take care of anything, any job which is given to them, provided the institutions should concentrate on training programs in self-defense, and then just instilling them in the confidence about how they could go about the work-life balance, and on a lot of programs on gender difference, and then to just bring in a lot of leadership programs to them, to just tell them that these are the inherent qualities in them where they can rise up to become the leaders in the organizations. And as I think it is Dr. Neelima said, that networking, or Dr. Uma, I don't remember, but as one of the panelists said, that networking capability is one we should look at. The networking definitely enhances their ability to just understand how the women can rise up and what are the opportunities, and sharpen their thinking capability of mapping up their careers and aspiring for the bigger positions. If they're networked at the institutes itself, when they're pursuing their programs about the leaders who are there, the women who are in the leadership positions, networking with the women employees of various organizations, conducting some surveys to understand what are the challenges and understand how they can face them by bringing in an analysis of the challenges, and then have discussions in the institutions, I think will really help them in understanding that the challenges are there, but the challenges can be taken care. And also, we also should make them understand that many of the companies are coming up with lot of WLB policies, and flexi timings, then the leaves for during their maternity periods, and then what are the facilities which are there on the on the campuses of the organizations. I think all these will instill confidence in them to take up these positions and get into the technological institutions. As Dr. Neelima said, that in science organizations, there are many women who are taking up. Maybe, that one of the studies conducted by my student who has conducted a research on WLB in WLB policies in the organizations to encourage women to take up the positions, revealed that the women just, always they just stop or take a break when they just have somebody at home to be taken care, the elders, the in-laws or the parents. And then when they just give birth to the child, and then, when there is an emergency at home, and these are the women, immediately they think about taking a break. To avoid this, I think the organizations should come up with policies like flexi timings. And as one of them suggested, that creating a creche on the campus, and then, where they can be given permissions to go and attend the parent-teacher meetings at the schools. And then where even the schools, secondary and higher schools, should think of having timings or a flexi timings for these parents, the convenient timings for the parents to come and speak about, to know about the child's performance, or through, the reports and through virtual meetings, where they can just interact with the parents instead of insisting that the parents should be on the campus when they want to know about the performance of the child. And these, I think, bring down a lot of stress which is created. I have a busy schedule in the office, and then I have to visit my child's school. I think all these things should be looked into. And at the same time, we also feel that the organizations, I think the surveys to be conducted by the girls and the boys in the higher education and institutes should concentrate on understanding what are the policies and what are the gender parities which are there on the campuses, in the organizations, and how they can, they can come up with suggestions to just understand, and then suggestions to take care of these challenges. I think these would instill a lot of confidence in these girl students to take up the positions. And at the same time, the institutions should conduct a lot of leadership programs in order to hone the leadership skills, and in order to just make them understand how they can rise up the ladder in spite of having the challenges and taking care of the challenges and overcome the hurdles. And then I think the education should come up with scholarships and incentives for the girl students to take up technical courses. Prepare them mentally through training programs to be confident in taking up the jobs which still are perceived as meant for the men. The myths that they will not be able to compete with men, especially in the IT sector, infrastructure, where timings is a big constraint. The study conducted by my student also revealed that timings in these sectors is a big hurdle for the women to take up the jobs, especially in the hospitality sector and in the hospitals. The women do not want to be in the decision-making positions. I think all these things should be taken care when they are in the institute itself, along with their pursuing of their positions. And so mapping up of the career path and all should be done, and also how to take care, what are the skills required, what are the challenges, and how they can face is what I think we at the higher educational institutions should look into. And work-life balance is something I think we need to bring in a lot of awareness in them, as they already have a multitasking capabilities. Work-life balance shouldn't be a problem, provided the organizations also should have a proper, very pertinent work-life balance policies. I think these are my suggestions for the girls to take up, and how the higher educational institutions should look up at bringing in very pertinent, relevant training programs, preparing them to take up these positions and face the challenges when they just get into the organizations.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me to be a panel member, and then I really appreciate ASMA for coming up with these very relevant and exciting topics for the panel. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. That was a very, very inspirational presentation that you made, talk that you gave, particularly about how women should develop their attitude and how they need to really think about their careers from the perspective of making the right impressions right from the early stage of their careers and continuing to do that. When we talk about women in technology careers, they have all of these kind of concerns. They have these challenges. They have to meet the family's expectations. They have their personal ambitions. They have sometimes they're torn emotionally. Am I doing the right thing? They're conscious. Sometimes I have had these questions when I was having my daughter was young, and I used to travel quite a lot. And then like in the morning, I'll be taking a flight and then I'll be calling her from somewhere. And then she will say, oh yeah, I left at 4 o'clock when you were still asleep. So I'm calling you from Ahmedabad. So, many times, oh, okay, Mama, so when are you going to be back? I'll be back after 3 days. But I was very fortunate to have my mother-in-law staying with me, taking care of my child. So in today's context, there are questions like these. Whether we will have a supportive environment and how do you balance your life? How do you balance your careers? So Dr. Reddy, you have raised some very pertinent questions. And in order for women to be able to take these questions somewhere and ask these questions and be in a position to ask these questions where nobody is going to judge you and say, well, is this the right question? Is the right forum to ask this question? And that is the reason we have set up something known as women's winning circles for women, which is really bringing together women who are pursuing careers, who are about to enter into technology careers. And to just share a brief overview about winning circles, may I request Mahesh from GTT Foundation to take a few minutes to explain winning circles. Over to you, Mahesh.
Thanks, Uma, and thanks, Asma, for inviting me to this event. And as Uma said, and as many of the panelists have said, we have raised various of the points that are required for women to get into these roles. GTT Foundation has started in the Winning Circle initiative as part. It's an exclusive community for building future women leaders. So under this Winning Circle initiative, we will give women opportunity to learn, support, and get mentorship in order to address issues, challenges pertaining to their professional roles and thereby enabling their success and growth. So as most of the panelists have shared that students require support, experience sharing, networking, so that they're able to grow. So under this Winning Circle community, we have already started these things. So under Winning Circle community, we're starting support programs, we're starting to nurture. Most importantly, we're getting people to share their experiences, like how they're getting success, best practices that they've followed in beginning of their careers that are going to help these fellow students who are just entering into their careers. So how they can network, how they can grow through this community in order to build a full winning potential. And most importantly, we are on similar platform. We recently had an event with Ms. Chavi Rajawat, who is director of Eminent Girls and Sarpanch of Soda, where a lot of women participants were able to participate and interact and have experience sharing as well in order to grow. And I'm very proud to say that under Winning Circle initiative, we have designed a specialized program for women students as well. As part of this program, we are able to train them on corporate readiness, managing first 90 days at work, image building at work, managing managers at work, most importantly. And we've learned from various of the surveys that we conducted for these students as well, or for women professionals who are entering into this workforce, that they require this post training as well, and how they can learn and how they can lead to succeed in these corporate workforces as well. And most importantly, as part of this winning circle community, we would be organizing various programs like skill-based training programs, mentorship opportunities from our pool of mentors, job opportunity sharing, and various other events that would be curated to address the challenges that the young women face when they are entering the workforce. And most important point that I want to talk about under this winning circle community that we're building, we are appointing various of the ambassadors for this community. And from this community, we'll be appointing ambassadors from student community, we'll be appointing ambassadors from women that are entering into tech-based role, women that are entering into non-tech-based jobs, women ambassadors from PWD, women in various other women ambassadors from educational roles. Like we would have ambassadors who are professors, we would have ambassadors who are principal, vice chancellors, TPOs, and we will also want to get various of the women recruitment managers and get to learn from the best practices that they are following as well. So we'll get all these ambassadors appointed for the winning circle in order to help nurture and grow women that are entering into various of these tech and non-tech based roles, and get people to connect with this community in order for them to success in order for them to be successful and grow as well.
So thank you, Mahesh. And yeah, this is a very interesting initiative which will enable not only women who are already part of the technology domain, but those who are just about entering into the technology industry. They can also benefit from a number of questions, experiences that other women successful leaders have had. And we would be happy to work with colleges, partner with various colleges, and see in what way we can pass on these benefits to the women candidates who are pursuing technology programs in your institutions. And this is, in fact, not only for technology women, but it can be for women who are all looking at pursuing careers. So we would be happy to share more details for those who are interested. We can do this offline after this webinar. Now, moving on to the next panelist, we have, thank you, Mahesh. We will now move on to the next panelist, Dr. Kulkarni. Dr. Kulkarni, we have been talking about careers in technology. We heard a little while ago from Dr. Neelima Gupta about research opportunities which women could pursue and in larger numbers. But I have a question for you, Dr. Kulkarni. We find that when it comes to women in technology, there are far fewer women in system support, in innovation, in cutting edge technology areas, while we have larger number of women in software and support in the hardware and networking and cloud and these kind of cutting edge areas, we find far lesser number of women. So what is the reason for this? And what do you think in the academic institutions we can do something different in order to attract more women to be part of these dimensions of technology? Over to you, Dr. Kulkarni, for your thoughts on this subject.
Yeah, thank you, Neelima. You are able to hear me?
Yes, Dr. Kulkarni.
Yeah. Okay, so let me thank for this opportunity. And I think the gender bias or maybe gender, this thing, I think we could see in this webinar itself. I think after Dr. Gupta spoke, and then after Uma, and also after Dr. Reddy, so three strong women speaking. And after that, I mean, me speaking, I think it is not really making much of this thing, because whatever I wanted to speak, most of the things are being taken by our women speakers. I think this is the best example that now things are changing, and a lot of emphasis is being put in place to have women entrepreneurs, I mean, women workforce, and everything is working really well. And coming to the educational institutions, I think Now there is a need to make some of the changes to attract more and more girls, especially in the technology. And one thing I observed is that the gradual decrease in the interest with girls in STEM-related areas is being seen. I mean, which is really not a good sign. If you look at today, if one of the statistics says only about 30 to 32% of the women are interested in STEM-related areas, and that is also with force and then with a lot of attraction. I mean, we have to get them to the campus. And one of the major issue, what I find getting women into technology is their attitude in thinking about the stereotype of specializations. So they have come to certain conclusions. For example, for them, only this kind of the jobs are going to be suited, and only this kind of the specialization which is going to be suited. For example, if you look at computer science, I think more or less all the girls will be interested to get into computer science, and to some extent maybe electronics and communications. And in that way, so the women or see the girls are restricting themselves to confined to only particular areas of specialization, which in turn is affecting their job opportunities whenever they go for the job. And whatever the areas you mentioned, it could be in networking or it could be in the other software development kind of this thing. And in most of these areas, we are not able to see many girls, but of course, now the scene is changing, and we are able to get a lot many even girls also entering into this field. This is mainly because of this. I mean, this is a stereotype of thinking that only certain specializations are going to help. And if at all they come out of that, I mean, if they come to the conclusion that it is not going to be only this area, everywhere they are going to be suited and they can do much better in the other areas also, then increasing this particular number is not going to be a challenge at all. I think now that has to be done. And when we look at even the companies also where the women employees are being attracted, and there also the mindset is that, oh, girls are suited to only this kind of job, and hence the recruitment has to be done here, and they're not suited to this. I mean, this kind of the mindset is there everywhere. I think there is a need to get out of this and come out with an mindset that the girls or say the women are suited to all kinds of the jobs and that they can do it. And even the working environment also, it is not going to be like earlier years. I think the ambience and other things, and even the workplaces have made a lot of changes. You want to attract women into their workplaces, and hence I think there is no need for the worry. But only the requirement today is that, I mean, they should change their mindset. And in order to get into this, for example, whenever the recruitment happens, and we are able to see some kind of gender bias that is happening, and in that case, I think with advances in the technology, for example, it could be AI and ML being incorporated, and everywhere intelligence is being brought in. Even nowadays, the recruitment is not happening by the human intervention, and mostly it is being done by the tool. Maybe with a robot, I mean, the kind of the charts that are going to happen, and some kind of the different kinds of the intros that are happening. And with this also, the gender bias is being completely eliminated. Only those who are skilled and capable, and they are getting into this. And this in turn has increased the women employees in the companies by at least about 8 to 10% compared to the earlier years. So only I would like to end here stating that it is a clear case of the mindset where the ladies or say women have to think that they're suited to any kind of the job. I mean, they can do, and they're capable. And any technology, and then whether it's going to be technology related to the electronics or computer science or mechanical, whatever it is, so they are capable of doing this. And once they get into this particular mindset, I feel the women in the technology, this could be increased. And today we are talking about the contribution of ladies for the GDP of this particular countries, which is only about 12 to 18%. I think this could be increased. And today the women workforce in the whole world, it is restricted only about 30 to 32%. And this could be made at least up to 40-45%, or nearing to whatever the number you deserve for. I mean, 50%. I think it is being made possible. And they have to come out of their personal problems. And another major problem, what I see is, I think it's also being mentioned by Dr. Gupta. Anybody who is, I mean, any women who are into job, and when they take off to do something else, for example, to meet their family requirement, the possibility of coming back has become very, very less. And even one of the best example could be their maternity leave, and they go for the maternity leave, and after that, then they'll tell the child is very small, so they have to take care of that. They take 1 year off, 2 year off, and then 3 year off. Like this continues. Imagine, I mean, these women, when they come back with a gap of 2 to 3 years in their CV, getting rehired is going to be a very, very difficult job. I think all these things, these things have to be addressed. Even companies are also equally responsible to come out with some kind of the policy so that the women in the technology could be attracted. I think just to give an example, Dell has come out with a scheme called as a career back for the ladies. And if anybody comes with maybe a year or 2 year gap for genuine reasons, and they could be trained suitably, and they're going to be made suited to the present requirement, and then they're going to be re-employed. I think this kind of things are required. I feel it is the responsibility of the institutions to attract girls for the STEM-related areas and to make it more and more attractive. And also from the company side, they have to create that environment so that the girls are suited to that kind of job, and then the women in the technology could be increased. So let me congratulate that this is a wonderful initiative by ASMA and also whatever the foundation are talking about. This is very good, and such awareness has to be increased, and more and more workshops of this kind should be conducted, and women should be conducted with programs which is going to attract them to take STEM related things. I think that is being done. I'm very sure it is going to be addressed, and women in the technology could be increased. And as in today in the pipeline, I was told only about 28% the interested women in the technology who would like to look for the job, even if the jobs are not are there, but they're not takers in the women's side. I think now this is specialization enhancement, or say getting specialized. I mean, that particular exercise has to be taken up in a very big way, and this in turn can increase women in the technology. And this is my point of view. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kulkarni. You made a superb point about gender bias, how it can be eliminated in the coming days by a use of robot, because a robot will not know whether it's a male or a female. But then what we need to bear in mind is that even the robots are being trained by us. And when we are training the robots, we need to make sure that there is no other bias creeps in, and the robot is able to therefore become as smart as we would like them to be to look at candidates without any gender bias. But yeah, you're so right in mentioning that ultimately what corporates are looking for is just capabilities. They really do not differentiate between male and female if capabilities are equal. And if they have to hire for attitude, very often they say we prefer to hire women because they come in with an open mind, positive attitude, and like Dr. Manna mentioned right in the beginning, their ability to focus and their ability to do things in a very systematic manner. So these are some of the advantages which companies are looking for. So on that note, I would like to now request Mr. Rajiv Shukla, who's the Director for Placement, to give his perspectives on why do you think, Mr. Shukla, these days companies are coming into campuses and they're looking for women in larger numbers. And secondly, I would also like to share your thoughts on, I'm sure some of the companies would have said, Mr. Shukla, we hired a lot of women, but you see, several of them have already left us. So while Dr. Kulkarni gave the example of Dell and others who are looking at welcoming back women, what do you think companies can do better to attract, retain, and create an environment which makes it more exciting for women and convenient for women to stay on in their jobs, as much as they have made it very, very attractive for them to enter into the corporate world? Over to you, Mr. Shukla, for your thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Uma, ma'am, GTT and ASMA for inviting me over. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
If you look at, see, my career has spanned over a period of 24 years as of now. So I have seen the previous batches who passed out maybe 24 years back. And today also I see these batches. If you would have looked, jo aaj shayad, who would have reached up to a middle level or a senior level somewhere. These are 24 years back. The first batches that I counted were hardly 10% of the total population of students were women, roughly. So it is no surprise that in middle management and senior management, you don't get, so you get that figure somehow. It was the incoming as well as outgoing. And what was incoming? 10% was incoming. So you only have 10% as outgoing. Not many women in those days used to prefer the career. Now, let us look at the silos that industry built up. So there were opportunities for everybody. But then you had hardcore industries like mechanical, civil, or brick and mortar industries, if you can call them. They all had 100% men working at senior levels. So the policies took a very, very long time in getting women friendly. For them, if a job had to be done, it had to be done, whatever the cost and whatever the... So they never looked at what she was facing in her own household. So you also have to look at the silos that industry also built up in the due course of time. It is changing, but it is changing very, very slowly. Second part, if I can draw your attention to, then there was this software industry. It needed lots of hands, and software support was one thing where they could fit in easily and could continue. They could also jump out when time needed, and could also jump in that terms. So if you look at industry, if you compare industries, and it's there was a lot of difference, and there was a lot of what you can call it, lot of women coming into few industries, but not in other industries as far as technology domain was concerned. Now let us look at the academic scenario. Academic scenario also had this. It still remains. You have now 90% of the girls getting into computer science. Why? Because the industry welcomed it. You have only 2 girls, 3 girls, maybe in a batch of 120. You talk about mechanical, you talk about civil, you talk about fire and safety, engineering, you talk about chemical. Chemical has a good score around 20%, but that is also not sufficient, because the industry in those parts did not support the women. And mind it, on the entry level, there is not much of a problem as far as getting them placed is concerned. 4 or 5 years into their careers, when they start their families, is where all the trouble starts. And for an industry to have that mindset, it has to be educated. There have been improvements. There have been companies like Cummins. There have been companies like HSBC, HCL Tech. You have in past, you also had MAN Industries, even TCS to some extent, who normally go in for women alone drives. So situation is improving, but not to that extent. There has to be much more many initiatives which should come in benefit of women, because the advent has been slow. From 10%, now it is around 32% of class is women in case of few branches. But still, it is minuscule in terms of what we call core branches, as we call them, electrical, civil or mechanical. So these silos have to be destroyed. Women population has to be taken in a floating. Now, someone was talking about niche areas. I think Dr. Uma, you were talking about why don't they go into niche areas? Why to talk about niche area? Even in software, you have two strongly demarcated areas as software services and software product. You won't find even 10% of women in software product, because software product needs a commitment of say 5 to 10 years, which they are unable to give. So they stay comfortably put in software services and manage somehow. So it is the societal pressures that normally don't allow a woman to serve as she would like to. Another thing, somebody talked about PhD in technology. You might have seen, आपने शायद देखे नहीं. Look at the older guides or the older generation of academicians as of now, which rule every university, which rule every aspect of education. It is like, and look at, so I'm transgressing a bit, look at PhD in management. Again, silos. Today, 70% of the management colleges, or at least 60% of the teachers in management colleges who are all PhDs, come from management. You have hardly any PhDs. If you start PhD with any domain, be it computer science, be it mechanical, be it any, in technology, it is such a big thing to do and do a PhD in. It is like that old colonial mindset, ki PhD in technology is very hard. So you hardly have people. Why to talk about women? It is also men. There are hardly any men PhDs in technology. Similar, and the ratio dwindles if you talk about women. So all these situations, education going to higher education up to PhDs, education, after education, the companies have to be, it is a full circle. Everybody will have to be sensitized towards this gender inequality of such proportions. We have improved, we have gone up to 30%, but then why after that span of between 5 to 10 years where she throws away her job, and because of societal pressures she has to go, that is a natural phenomena, we can't ignore it. But then unless companies can do women drives, but who will sensitize them towards giving women a space when they are raising up their families? That is the more pertinent question. So with that, I would like to end my speech or my thought putting, that there is much more that needs to be done. The situation is not rosy at all. It needs constant improvement. Government has had very good initiatives, but then it has not gone so skin deep that it can really improve the condition of women as far as industry is concerned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shukla, for taking up some of the tricky questions and giving a very, very honest and forthright thoughts on these questions which the industry has to address, academic institutions have to address, and the government has to address. We couldn't be ending with much more forthright thoughts on this subject than Mr. Shukla. It was really wonderful to hear you speak straight from the heart. Before we end, we have a few minutes for taking questions. So may I request the audience to ask us any questions? Otherwise, I have a few questions for the panelists.
I think we have Dr. Shobna Poddar from OSDU in North. So Dr. Poddar, you wanted to make some points, right? Dr. Poddar, are you there? We may continue, ma'am.
Okay. No, I just wanted to know if anybody in the audience had any questions. Okay, so while we possibly, let's see if in the chat there are any questions. So if anybody
I
has
think Dr. Shobna
questions,
is
you
here.
can.
Dr. Shobna is here. Yeah.
All right. So Dr. Shobna, your thoughts, please.
Good morning, ma'am. Dr. Uma Ganesh.
Good morning, Dr. Poddar. We would love to hear your thoughts or questions for the panelists.
Yeah, it's actually wonderful webinar today's for empowerment of women, really, and related to the women empowerment in the field of science and technology and all. If I would like to raise a question. If you can again, give a little bit briefing, very brief, very brief answer about that about the women's success towards technology in the science field.
Sorry, could you please repeat your last sentence? You were not clear.
Women's success in the field of science and technology.
Women's what? Sorry, do you mind repeating again?
Women's success. Yeah, Mr. Rahul, are you hearing?
I think she's asking about your views on women's success in technology and how things are trending right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that question, Dr. Poddar. I would think that it's a mixed success from all the statistics that we are seeing. While there are a large number of women entering into the technology domain or science domain, the success is really measured more in terms of how many people stay, how many people really reach to the top. So we do have a problem at the middle level as well as at the top level. As the statistics show, only 20% remain in the mid-career, and at the top, only about 11% remain. So there is a lot of work all of us have to do. Industry, government, academic institutions, families, society, and most importantly, women themselves. They have to help themselves before they can be given more help. I think if we're all able to do that together, it'll be really phenomenal for a country like India, which is constantly being looked upon by various industries, not only in India, but globally. India is being considered as the next big destination for talent. Women, if they are able to contribute to the GDP and to their own family income, it can be transformational for this country. So it is in that context that we have come up with this initiative to support women who are still in the college or who have moved into the industry, want to continue to pursue their technology careers. And there are some roadblocks, some questions, some support, mentoring. All of this is required for them to continue to build successful careers and stay on with their work life balance. So that's where we have created this concept of winning circles, and we would love to collaborate with colleges and see in what way we can support women, and that will be our small contribution for women to be successful in the years to come. So on that note, I would like to stop here and over to you, Rahul. Thank you for inviting us, inviting me to chair this panel. And I would like to also thank the panelists for their phenomenal insights and fantastic contribution, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you, Dr. Uma Ganesh. Thank you, all the panelists. In fact, it was indeed a great, morning to think and discuss how, women empowerment is actually, picking up everyone's mind attention. And most interestingly, when initiatives like Winning Circle are actually, coming up to empower the next generation. In fact, a lot more is needed in the industry out there. Initiatives like this actually help colleges, at the same time community, both, in order to take the next step, in order to progress further in empowering the women candidates. There's a lot of willingness at the bottom. More and more girl candidates wish to do more, with their careers. But I think, yes, support system is what is missing at times. And I think initiatives like this at GTT Foundation, I know you work on many different aspects of it. This is just one dimension. So I must congratulate you also and Dr. Ganesh Natarajan sir as well for all that you do at GTT Foundation. And I appeal to the community out there, to all the TPOs, to all the colleges and universities who would like to explore this partnership and understand how they can be benefited from the grants, from the kind of content, from the kind of support system that GTT is building in order to actually eventually impact the girls' career at the bottom level. So thank you so much, everyone. It was such a great pleasure hosting you all today. And we at ASMA look forward to host a lot of similar topics and more thought-provoking content in the time ahead. Please follow us on our social media handles and stay in touch for the upcoming events. The next one is on 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. It's a higher education summit on technology in higher education, and we look forward to welcoming you all again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.